inspiring session that serves as a testament to the fact that age is no barrier when it comes to making a profound impact. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Our next set of panelists, their courage and their dedication is transforming the community around them, and also in the process is setting an incredibly powerful example for future generations. Because frankly, it's never too early to care about the climate.
Absolutely. As we said, that the time is running out and the time to take action is now. And for this very session, well, this is going to be one that will be quite engaging, because we'll be inviting the youth of the country who have a very important role to play for this session, as it is now being themed as, Pooja, which is called the Vision for Young Change Makers of India.
Absolutely.
And this has been very important then, as the vision that is now set for our youngsters, because the future belongs to them. And we do not want to leave them a world that leaves behind a world that is far from the room of improvement. Let's welcome on stage, we are honored to invite on stage Vihaan Agarwal, who is the founder of One Step Greener. Ladies and gentlemen, big round of applause for our young generation, the youth who is now responsible for taking over. Akhilesh Anilkumar, the UN India Youth Climate Leader and Director and Co-Founder, Bring Back Green Foundation. Welcome to you, Akhilesh, as well. Sneha Shahi, who is the water conservationist, also joining us here. Sneha, please welcome on stage. Lovely to have you with us, Sneha. And also joining Sneha on stage is Aditya Mukarji, the student innovator and environmentalist.
Lovely.
What a lovely group of youngsters we have on stage.
And Amita, I know that this particular topic is deeply personal to you and have so much personal relevance, so I'm going to ask that you spearhead and navigate this next conversation with our Next Gen India stalwarts. Amita, the floor is yours. Over to you.
Thank you, Pooja. So as I said, the future is you. You are the youth. Welcome to all of you. And of course, the pivotal role each and every one of you play when it comes to the movement that you have started is very, very important. Because let's start with you, Sneha. When we talk about water conservation, that is so important looking at the time of crisis that everyone today has been facing. And we talk about the future. What does the future look like?
Right. So I started working on water systems when I was in my master's. It started out by looking at a nala, which is a gutter, as we all know. The idea was to see where does this drain lead us to. It leads us to the oceans. So we have action plans for rivers. We have strategies for oceans. We have blue-green strategies for oceans. But we don't have strategies for managing our smaller drains. And like we say, हमें हमारी नदियाँ साफ करनी है. I feel अगर हम हमारे नाले साफ कर देंगे, हमारी नदियाँ automatically साफ हो जाएंगी. And that's very important, because the more water we want back for us to reuse, the more we need to use it more carefully, the more we need to recycle, and the more we need to give it back into the full system to reuse it.
And majority of the water that Earth has is not much actually of use that can be put across, right? We can't drink that water. Vihaan, when we talk about One Step Greener, what is it, the initiative that you started, and what inspired you to take that initiative?
So, One Step Greener is a non-profit that me and my younger brother started about 6 years ago. And it basically works on 3 prongs. We believe that education is primary. So we have education programs where we go directly to schools to educate on generally about the environment, but more specifically about waste segregation and how kids can do it as well as adults at home. We have, when we realized that people don't really have an option coming to how that waste is managed after they segregate, we've created a free door-to-door recyclable waste pickup that's operating in 7 cities now, and over 25,000 people.
7 cities already, that's wonderful.
Yeah. And 25,000 people actively give their waste every month to us. And we responsibly manage it, where we give it only to certified recyclers with a whole set of compliance. And then our third prong is urban afforestation. Last year we planted about 32,000 trees in Gurgaon, and we take care of them for 5 years. And what inspired me to start this was I'm severely asthmatic, and about 6 years ago, the Ghazipur landfill caught on fire and collapsed. And there, when I was reading about it, the connection between waste and air pollution, a problem I really wanted to solve, if not for everyone else, but for myself at least, became clear. And I said that, okay, what do I do to stop it affecting me, essentially?
So that means, Akhilesh, if you need to take a step, it needs to start from you. How did your journey begin?
My journey? It started 6 years ago. It was with the Kerala floods in 2018. And that was one of the most devastating floods we had seen in nearly a century. I was just graduated from my school, started my college days. I was a volunteer in a non-profit at that point of time, but we were working with specially able children. But I had some experience volunteering, and then when the Kerala floods happened, one of the magical things that I saw was young people coming together. In the floods, the biggest thing that I witnessed was the unity of our state and people coming together. So in that harmony, in that unity, I saw a lot of other young people very passionate about their communities as well as working for change. And I started as a volunteer who, when the trains came with relief materials, they used to throw 30 kg, 40 kg sacks on top of us, and then we would pass around. But then that's how my journey started. Then I did a cleanup in a forest which had landslides and everything during the Kerala flood situation. I discovered so many plastic straws, in a forest. There was issues of animals, especially baby monkeys dying because of plastic ingestion and a lot of other things. So I started to think, okay, how do we solve this? Then started a local initiative called Swap the Straws. And we tried to eradicate plastic straws completely, tried to figure out from a very holistic, multidimensional approach, how do you eradicate one piece of plastic from our society? And then that ran for 3 months. It was very successful in intervention, reached to a lot of people. Some municipalities even declared a plastic ban. We gave a petition to the Chief Minister with 15,000 physical signatures from across schools in Kerala saying that we need to ban plastic straws, and also mentioned how do you ban it. Banning is not a solution. You need to first prepare the market first, with alternatives and things to make it ready for a ban to happen. That's why all our plastic bans keep failing. And then I went to Australia for my bachelor's, but then I couldn't stay there. I really wanted to come back, do more impactful work. And I had the privilege to do that. I dropped out, came back and started my foundation.
You dropped out?
Yes. And it's been 5 years since running the foundation. We have been doing some amazing work. We did very locally, but now we are across the country and now we work internationally as well.
Well, that's amazing. Big round of applause for the work and the initiative that has been done by him. This is the youth, ladies and gentlemen, who inspire us to have all of those ideas where our thinking stops. That is when you take over. Aditya, what is your story? Because as an environmentalist, how do you see the future?
I started my climate action work in 2018 when I was just about 14 years old. It was World Environment Week. World Environment Week was happening in India. We were hosting it that year. And well, in January of that year, I was just scrolling through the internet, to see news and figure out what was new in the world. And I came across this video of a vet trying to pull a plastic straw out of a turtle's nose. Now, the bleeding and crying of the turtle really moved me as a...
Seen those videos.
And I was all of 14, and it made me think as to what I could do to help protect them and to help do my little bit to clean the planet and to help save the planet. And that's when I started working against single-use plastics, mainly plastic straws and other single-use plastics in the hospitality sector and amongst people and institutions. And over the past 6 years, I've been able to remove over 26 million straws annually.
My God, that's what another applause. Yes, please, go on, tell us.
And a few million others. So that's now, over 6 years, is about 150 million straws.
You're saying that so casually.
Well, it's a small bit. One person doing it is a small bit. My goal is to use my story to help influence another 1,000, 100,000, a million more people to take up climate action.
Absolutely, because this is the stage very much for that, and you can go ahead with your initiative and your reading what the future looks like. But as Akhilesh was pointing out, Sneha, we need alternatives. Now, when it comes to water conservation, what alternatives that you feel like would be very necessary, and also when it comes to economically viable, that one needs to take?
So, for a country that's so water reliant, because we're highly agrarian, climate change is an issue because agriculture is a livelihood sector that's highly dependent on how the nature will act that year. Be it the floods in places where they've never seen floods, be it the droughts in water-rich areas. So we've become so confident that we know how to manage water, that we are forgetting that we don't just need to manage it. We need to use it not just as a resource, but as a natural entity that has more power over us. So when we're drilling more bore wells, because there are lesser laws which prevent us from having bore wells, it's your land, it's your bore well pump, you can pump out how much ever you want. What happens then? The groundwater goes down. We have terrains which do not have recharge in the aquifers. What happens then? You need more water. Now the farmers who are more water reliant and have switched crops, they want more water for that crop which is paying them well. So we need alternatives not just for those who were naturally there in the landscape, but also on techniques like drip irrigation. We need more research on knowing how to manage water better. And that's where a lot of young people who are wanting to venture into the sector of conservation and sustainability are not able to break through. Because that research is available to very higher institutions. It's not trickling down to smaller places. In the morning we spoke about top-down approaches need to happen. We need bottom-up approaches as well. And we need both of them to happen simultaneously to meet in the middle.
And give the farmers more options.
And give the farmers more
Yes.
options.
Absolutely. Yes. That's also an important point there, Vihaan. But when we talk about the future that we're looking at, say by the year of 2070, now by that year, do you believe that India has those feasible options when it comes to gaining the net zero emission policy? Can we actually reach to that goal?
I'm hopeful, and that's what I'd say. 2071, my initial reaction when that came out was that's way too far off. But if we look at it practically, let's just take the 2070 goal. I divide it sector by sector. So one very important sector would be power, right? I think the cost curve for solar is coming down and it's becoming financially almost a necessity for people to put it if they want to save money on electricity. But I think we need far more nuclear energy in India. I think we don't talk about this enough, but we have some really good thorium reactors that are coming online now, but we need to accelerate even faster if we want to get to that target. When it comes to industry, which is the second sector I talk about, we have an opportunity right now where a lot of our industries are coming up at scale, right? We have an opportunity to adopt green technologies and really push them to ensure that, like for example, cement, there's some limestone-based technologies coming out. There are a couple of other things coming out that could potentially, and of course, India's development dream is a concrete dream, right? So in that sense, you need to have technologies, and we have that opportunity now to do that, really. Then if we look at transportation, green hydrogen is one, but even blue hydrogen, I don't think people talk about that. We just need hydrogen, and then we can accelerate towards green hydrogen. And then, of course, there's the whole carbon sequestration angle. I personally don't believe in non-natural solutions. I believe that we need to have nature-based solutions at scale. But of course, as we heard earlier, that land use is a problem in India. But we have opportunity there as well to do massive amounts of forests and protect our old growth.
Well, we've had land warriors who have been talking about the same, how important it is to, when it comes to protecting our forests. But also, Akhilesh, as, I would say that the story that you were talking about of your inspiration is Apada Mein Afsar. It means that you have made the best out of a tragedy as well. But talking about the future, when it comes to India's growth, the climate change, the index, do you believe that India's performance so far has improved?
Yeah, it has improved recently, and we have seen all across the news. But I think with relation to how we look at India's future, I would really love to say to everybody in the room to start looking at the bottom, and then we look going up from there. For all our initiatives over the past few years has been trying to work on how you can bridge relationships between young people or different stakeholders working on a panchayat level or on a very local level, and that's where the action starts. So in Kerala, we have adopted 14 panchayats at the moment, which is a pilot project. We have been running for the past 2-3 years, where we'll be slowly moving into hundreds of panchayats after that, where we are launching something called the Panchayat Climate Parliament, where young people from that panchayat work with panchayat stakeholders there itself to identify the problems and work hand in hand, co-develop solutions, and then bridge a way up. The most important part of this is the Kerala floods itself was said to be something which could be avoidable. There was the report that came out before the Kerala floods happened, which talked about how this is a report that should be talked about in wards, in blocks, in panchayats, in the most lowest levels of government, as well as in a community level, talked in SHGs or smaller groups, and then disseminated and talked about. Then this could be a disaster which could have been avoided. That was talked in the report. The person who wrote the report told this, but unfortunately, not a lot of actions were taken, and we saw a very top-down approach happen.
But I agree with you. Of course, many of the disasters that we talk about, they could have been avoided, but we need to look beyond in the future as more of those disasters that we could actually foretell and avoid them from happening. So as an environmentalist, Aditya, as we talk about, because the population is growing, but the resources are limited, how does India act when it comes to finding solutions?
So it's a very valid point. Our population is growing exponentially. There's limited resources, but India has to grow at her own pace. We can't be using global standards for this. It's a classic global north versus a global south divide, because if you look at it, for example, green hydrogen, while the US is giving an $8 to $10 subsidy per unit, India can only afford to give about a $1 to $2 subsidy per unit. And it's not because we are financially poor. It's just that we have a lot more challenging issues on hand regarding other aspects of social change that need to be taken place. But that being said, the best way for India to grow is through youth advocacy, is through people doing their little bit in their own environments and in their friend circle, in their circles of influence, as I would call it, to help actually bring about a viable change. For example, I will get my 5 friends to stop using single-use plastics, to do carpooling. If I'm going to office and I know 5 of my friends or 5 of my colleagues are in a similar geography along the similar route, we all take a blue smart cab, take a stop and go. So you're carpooling. So by the end of it, we can't ask any one part of society, whether it's government or corporate or individual, to bear the whole brunt or even the whole blame for the problem.
Would they?
Yeah, people are more climate conscious here. So I also live in Canada where I'm studying, and there you see each banana comes wrapped in its own plastic foil. Like, why do we need it? Banana has its own peel. No one's eating the peel of the banana. So while in India, people are more conscious like that, and I've seen people go to the vegetable market with their own bags, their own reusable cloth bags. So people are taking the initiative. It's just that more people need to be brought into this to make small changes in their daily life to help India move towards its greener target. Because at the end of the day, when the road floods, it's our problem. When the river overflows and destroys houses on the banks, it's our problem. It's no one else to blame.
Absolutely. And we talk about, when it comes to the flooding situation, I believe all of us would have witnessed such kind of an incident more in our lives, and this is something that we always then put the blame on others, that what are they doing, why are not they working out, and this is something that could have been avoidable. This time around, ladies and gentlemen, let's give a huge round of applause to our young change makers, because these change makers are our future, our bright future, because what we leave them today, they are going to better it tomorrow. Thank you very much to all of you. It's a pleasure to have you with us, and of course, very inspiring to hear all of your stories.
Lovely. And Amita, if I could ask that you, of course, present each of our young next-gen change makers with a special certificate that's, of course, representative of the trees that we've especially planted in their individual names. Let's have the certificates, ladies and gentlemen. Keep the applause going, ladies and gentlemen. Next-gen India, the brightest minds, and they are, in fact, going to change the trajectory of climate change over the next generation. We're incredibly proud of you and all of the good work that you do, even at this tender age. You've shown us that age is just a number, and what you lack in age or experience, you make up for with your ambition. Wonderful. Now, ladies and gentlemen, India is, of course, facing a severe water crisis. With rapid urbanization, there's industrialization and unsustainable agricultural practices that are